They told us there weren't enough seats. That was the first lie. I was a cargo technician, nothing special. Just another guy keeping the oxygen flowing, the crate sorted, and the lights on at Orion Terminal 6. A quiet place, a safe post, far from any known warfront. My daughter liked watching the cargo haulers drift by the viewport. Said they looked like space whales. Then the alarm started. Not the usual drills. These were different, urgent, screaming, *real star. I grabbed my daughter and ran. People flooded the corridors like blood from a wound. Officers pushing past civilians. Children crying. Lights flickering. Then the explosions started, deep, thunderous quakes that rattled your bones. The aliens didn't send a message. They didn't invade with soldiers. They just erased us from orbit. When we reached the evacuation bay, it was chaos. Launch pods half filled, half broken. Security barked orders. Families were separated. No room for both, they said. Put the child in and move on. I held my daughter tighter. She was only 5. Her arms were wrapped around my neck like I was her entire world. I looked around. 1 pod left. 1 seat. A cracked hull, flickering lights, but maybe, just maybe. I stuffed her in. She screamed for me not to leave. But I couldn't let her die here. Then, I did something stupid. I climbed in after her. The hatch slammed shut. The AI protested. Overweight. Manual override not recommended. I didn't care. I slammed my hand down on the launch panel. We shot into the void like a bullet through fire. No destination. No supplies. Just me, my daughter, and a stolen miracle in a dying sky. And I thought, if this was how we were going to die, at least we'd do it together. We didn't land so much as crash. The pod slammed into something hard, metal, and massive. I braced for the end. Sparks flew, alarm screamed, and my daughter cried out as we jolted sideways, then silence. The smoke cleared slowly. The emergency lights flickered dim red against curved alien walls outside the shattered hatch. I checked her first. Still breathing. A cut above her brow, but alive. I whispered it was going to be okay, though I didn't believe it myself. Then the hatch opened on its own. They were already waiting. Soldiers. Not human. Not even close. 10 feet tall. Skin like molten silver. Armor that moved like it breathed. Their weapons glowed, aimed at my face before I could blink. I put myself in front of my daughter, arms out, legs shaking. I didn't stand a chance, but I stood anyway. Then the soldiers froze. A sound echoed through the corridor. Not footsteps. A present star. The kind you feel in your chest before your ears register it. Then she appeared. The Empress. She didn't need a crown. Her presence was the crown. She was tall, yes, but more than that. She radiated power, like a living star wrapped in silk. Her 4 eyes locked onto mine, then drifted to the child behind me. Her expression didn't change. She stepped forward slowly, head tilted, observing like a scientist, a goddess, and a judge all at once. Then, to my shock, she spoke. Clear English. Her voice like wind over flame. He shielded the child. He took the last seat, not for escape, but for love. She turned to her guards. I want him. Bring him to me. They moved forward. Not with force, but reverence. And just like that, I was no longer running. I had been chosen star. They didn't throw us into a cell. Instead, we were taken deeper into the vessel, if you could call it that. It wasn't a ship in the way humans built them. It felt alive. The walls pulsed faintly, like veins carrying light. Everything hummed at a frequency I could almost feel in my teeth. Even the air smelled strange, like burning ozone mixed with blooming flowers. They brought us to a chamber high above the stars. Through the curved crystal windows, I could see the wreckage of other escape pods drifting lifeless in space. Ours was the only one that made it. We were watched. Not discreetly. Alien scholars, each from a species I couldn't name, observed us from behind translucent walls. They whispered, pointed, argued. One of them even cried. My daughter clung to my side the whole time, her little hand gripping mine like a lifeline. They showed us footage. Me, slamming the override. Me shielding her during the impact. Me refusing to leave her behind. Over and over. Studied like a wild animal doing something impossible. Apparently, Humans weren't expected to act like that. Not under pressure. Not in front of them. One called me an anomaly in the spectrum of predictable sentient behavior. Another called me dangerous. They argued for hours. Days maybe. Time was strange aboard the Zenith throne. Sleep came in brief, restless patches. But she, the Empress, watched it all from her throne of flame and crystal. Always silent. Always watching. Then she asked to see me again. Not as a prisoner. Not as a threat. She asked to see me alone. And somehow, in a place where nothing made sense, that request felt more terrifying than any weapon pointed at my head. They led me through hallways of light and shadow, corridors that shifted as I walked, like the ship itself adjusted its shape to guide me. No guards. No weapons. Just silence, and the low hum of power under every surface. My footsteps felt loud in that place, like I didn't belong. They brought me to a garden. Not what I expected aboard a warship. The air was warm, tinged with scents I couldn't name. Trees shimmered in impossible colors, petals glowing faintly in the dim light. Bioluminescent vines climbed pillars made of stone and bone. And in the center of it all, she stood, barefoot on glowing moss, as if the world bent for her. The Empress. She didn't speak at first. Just stood with her back to me, arms folded, gazing at something beyond the stars through an open skylight. When she turned, her eyes met mine without hesitation. I thought I should bow, or kneel, or run. But I stood frozen. You were not meant to survive, she said. Your pod should have vaporized against the hull. Yet here you are. Flesh and instinct. Fire wrapped in weakness. I opened my mouth, but no words came. She stepped closer. Close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from her body, like she carried a sun beneath her skin. One hand reached up and traced the scar on my temple, healed now, but still raw inside. You are no soldier. No noble. Yet you would rather die than abandon your child. I nodded. She smiled. I have no heir. No bondmate. My throne is strong, but my future is not. But my people honor sacrifice, and they fear love that burns so brightly. She stepped back, voice like thunder wrapped in silk. Be mine. Not a pet. Not a slave. My equal. My flame. And I whispered, why me? She answered, because you chose to burn. The palace didn't erupt in applause when she announced her intent. It erupted in fury. They didn't say it to my face, not at first. But I saw it in their eyes, her generals, her advisors, her court of ancient bloodlines. They stared at me like I was filth dragged in from a battlefield. A primitive thing. A contaminant in their perfect imperial line. I wasn't welcome. And I wasn't safe. The first night after her announcement, I didn't sleep. I held my daughter in my arms, one eye on the door, waiting for the sound of a blade or poison gas. Morning came instead, along with a tray of food. She wouldn't let them touch me, not directly. But even she couldn't stop the whispers. They called me the human pet. Said I used her grief against her. Said she was weakening, becoming sentimental. Love, to them, was a weakness. But I knew different. The fifth night, one of the generals made his move. A public challenge, trial by fire. A duel not of strength, but of endurance. They wrapped my arms in heated coils of living metal and demanded I last longer than any noble ever had. I accepted. Because if I didn't, they'd never stop testing me. I screamed. I bled. I nearly blacked out from the heat. But I stood. Every second was for my daughter. Every burn was proof that I wouldn't let her live in a world where fear ruled over love. When I finally collapsed, they didn't cheer. But they didn't laugh, either. The Empress came to me after. She didn't speak. Just touched my shoulder, her expression unreadable. They started calling me something then. Karen Solas, the fire that does not flee. It wasn't respect yet. But it was fear. And that was enough. Time passed, but I didn't mark it with days or rotations. I marked it by the way they looked at me. At first, they watched me like a threat. Then like a curiosity. Eventually, like a possibility. I didn't try to lead. I just kept showing up. I asked questions no one bothered to ask. I listened. To the cooks, the engineers, the servants hiding in the shadows of the throne. I spoke plainly, never with titles, never with pretense. Some hated that. Others started copying it. The Empress changed too. She still ruled with fire, but it had shape now. Purpose. She laughed more, in quiet moments. She told stories of stars I'd never seen. She asked me what Earth was like. I told her about rain. About peanut butter. About Saturday morning cartoons with my daughter curled against me on the couch. She listened like those were sacred texts. My daughter, small, fragile, and human, became a symbol. Not because she was powerful, but because she was loved, openly, in a place that had forgotten how to do that. The Empress began attending court without full armor. Eating meals at our table. Playing, yes, playing, with my girl in the evening gardens. Whispers grew louder. That we were a turning point. That this was the birth of something unheard of. A new lineage. A merging of blood and fire. I told them I was no king. That I was just a man who wanted his child to live. But that was exactly why they started believing I should be one. And the day she placed her hand on mine before the Grand Council, openly, without ceremony or hesitation, I saw the shock in their eyes. Not that she chose me, but that I made her empire human. And it survived. They came back. The ones who destroyed Orion 6. The ones who didn't negotiate, didn't speak. The species known only as the Vrataral, machines wrapped in flesh, consuming systems like wildfire. This time, they didn't come for a station. They came for the throne world. We saw them before they entered system range, hundreds of vessels, bristling with weapons, eclipsing the stars. Panic rippled through the palace, but the Empress stood tall. She didn't flinch. And neither did I. Not anymore. This time, we had fleets of our own. Commanders who respected me, not because of tradition, but because I had bled beside them. This time, I wasn't just a survivor. I was the flame-bound consort, bonded to the Empress by vow and fire, father to the first heir of mixed blood. I stood beside her on the command dais, holding the battle staff of her people. When the signal came that the enemy had crossed the outer defenses, I looked her in the eyes. She nodded once. I gave the order. And the stars burned. We didn't fight like humans. We didn't fight like aliens. We fought like both, unpredictable, relentless, clever, cruel when necessary. They expected weakness. They found fury. They expected fear. They found unity. Ships I once loaded cargo into became ramming spears. Old weapons retooled with human ingenuity pierced the Vrataral armor. My daughter watched it all from the safety of a command chamber far below, surrounded by loyal guards and a generation of warriors sworn to her bloodline. When it was over, the throne world still stood. And I remembered that moment, the pod, the last seat, the choice I made. One man. One seat. One child. And now, one galaxy that knew what it meant to burn for something worth saving.